Welcome to the March 18th, 2026 meeting of the Cook County Housing and Redevelopment Authority. I'd note the presence of a quorum here, Commissioners Olson, Hanson, O'Brien, Lamour, and Gabler, and we appreciate the presence of our county board members, Commissioners Gamble and Sullivan. Thanks for being with us and supporting us. We have first thing is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
I'll second.
Been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Approval of the February 18th minutes. I only had, I think, one important correction, that Commissioner O'Brien was listed both as present and absent, and he was absent. And so we'll make that change.
I was suggesting that might apply to me, but not to him.
But there was one other less important correction, actually. Under financials, the Finance Committee had no significant questions on finances. It says the Housing Trust Fund from contributions from Cascade Vacation Rentals is around $100,000, but actually we don't have a housing trust fund yet, so I struck housing trust fund, and the contributions from Cascade Vacation Rentals are actually, I think, around $200,000, and we graciously acknowledge that. Also, Brand said he is waiting on approval of our resolution. I put in approval by the county attorney of our resolution.
Sure.
To create the housing trust fund. It said to access this fund, and I scratched that and put create the housing trust fund. So with those corrections, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have an opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone here who has a public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to the rest of the agenda, but I'm going to ask that we just make a quick modification, and there's, under new business, there's a presentation towards 30% of the heights, 30% at the heights. I'm sure that means rent to income, and we have people here to make a presentation, so let's start with that rather than the unfinished business that would normally proceed. So we'll greet all those who are here, and if you could identify yourself for the minutes, we'd appreciate that.
Hi, I'm Dennis Rusenthal. I'm a limited partner in the real estate partnership that's developing the Heights.
I'm Patty Byer, and I also am an investor in the Heights.
I'm Gary Latz, one of the general partners of the project.
Should they be sharing a microphone?
We can share maybe,
Unless Gary's not going to talk, which I highly doubt.
Gonna slide over, Gary, and we can share.
And I doubt that that's the case.
Scoot over a little bit so I can.
All
Okay.
right, take us into the subject, please.
All right, so I'm not going to go over much about the Heights project, because I know the HRA has been involved in it from very early on and has played a big part in making it possible, which all of the partners appreciate. I'm going to ask you to turn to the second page of the little handout we gave you. I had these organized a little differently, but they were sitting in my car seat, and I finished cross-country skiing on the way in, and I threw my fanny pack on the car seat, and the water bottle leaked all over. So Patty was nice enough to go make more copies for me, and this is the way they got stapled together. So you know what AMI is. It's area median income. And the top little table here shows that that's for a single person, $66,700 at this point in time. And then it gets higher as there's more people in a household. 80% of that is $53,360. 60% is $40,020. So those are the income amounts that the 60 and 80% that qualify people for the discounted rents. The next table below that shows the rents at the Heights for studios, 1 and 2 bedrooms. The bottom line is at the market rate, which is only available in the 1 and 2 bedrooms. And then there's a line that shows what the 80% rent is. So, for example, a 1-bedroom is $1,600 at market rate. It's $1,429 if you qualify at the 80% of area median income, and it's $1,071 if you qualify at the 60%, and so forth for the 2-bedroom. These programs work really well, as you can see, in lowering the rent significantly for people who hit these thresholds. But what's become clear as we start entertaining lease applications is they don't work so well for people that are between 60 and 80 and between 80 and 100. So, for example, if I make $100 a year more than the limit for a 60%, and I want to rent a 1-bedroom, my rent is going to go from $1,071 to $1,429 a month. But I only make $10 a month more. The same holds true if you make $100 more than the 80% threshold. You get kicked up to market rate, which again you can see is a significant amount. So we started trying to understand this better, and go to the other page. I'm sorry about all the numbers, but I'm going to explain kind of what we're looking at to make it easy to digest. This is information on the first 16 people who applied for and were approved for occupancy. On the left hand, we've eliminated the names just for confidentiality here. The left hand is the unit style for which they've applied and been approved. The next column is the income they reported. And the next column is what is 30% of that, because that's widely considered to be what makes housing affordable. And then the next column is the rent that's quoted to each of them based on the unit style and where they fall in the 60 or 80% AMI income. Then we add in estimated utilities to get to a gross rent. And then the column entitled Rent as a Percent of Income shows how much these people will be paying as a percent of their income for the unit for which they've applied and been approved. So that we're going to kind of forget the top 3 because they're people moving into the community that don't have significant income in their prior year, but they have families that are co-signing the lease and guaranteeing the rent. So we don't worry about them. We believe they're taken care of. But from there on down, you can start seeing that we have people that are, and these are listed kind of in order of income from lowest to highest. So we have people paying 47% of their income for rent, 43%, 39%, a little ways down, 46%, 36, there's one at 40%. So, and the reason is because they don't fall right at the 60 or right at the 80. They fall somewhere in between. So they're kicked up to a significantly higher rental amount because their income is too high to qualify for the next less expensive option. So our goal with this project is to try to guarantee successful tenancies. We want renters who can afford to live at the Heights and still pay their utility bill, their car payment, buy groceries, and not be so strapped by their rent that they can't really afford the rest of life. That's critical for their own good, but it's also important for the success of the project. If we have a lot of people who sign a lease, move in, because they have no other option of where to live in the community, which includes a lot of people these days. And they're really stretched to pay their rent, and something's going to give. They're not going to be able to afford health insurance, or their utilities may be cut off. Their car may sit in the parking lot not working, and they can't afford to fix it, which would be unhealthy for the resident and unhealthy for the project and the neighboring residents. So we're trying to figure out how we can address that. So the next columns over show, so our concept is we're going to seek donations from private individuals and businesses to create a fund. And that fund will be used to provide some additional subsidies to renters for whom the 60 and 80% program as it's structured doesn't really solve the affordability problem. We've talked to Boreal Waters. They've agreed to be the 501(c) organization that would receive tax-deferred contributions. So, for example, if someone needs to take a minimum distribution from their retirement account, that's taxable. But if it's donated to a 501(c), then it's not taxable. So the impact of that money is increased. So, and then we have a management company that's engaged with the project that would do another piece of the work that the program would require, which is once we determine a subsidy amount for each renter, then someone needs to verify that, yes, these are the incomes, these are the appropriate additional subsidies, so that they can seek reimbursement of these donations that are going to pass through Boreal Waters. So what we would like to ask the HRA to do is to be, I don't know if I'm using this term correctly, but like the fiscal agent for this, because Boreal Waters can't give money directly to tenants or to a project, but they can give it to an organization like the HRA. So we believe we will come up with sources for the money that allow tax-exempt contributions, and but we need an entity to provide the crucial function of approving what's provided by the management company and sending it on to Boreal Waters to get the reimbursement, and then forwarding that back to the Heights organization. We don't know yet what we'd love to get everyone to 30% AMI. I mean, these are old. A lot of these programs work based on numbers that are older. And things change in the economics of life that make them less and less accurate. So is 30% really accurate for someone earning $40,000 in Cook County that has to pay health insurance and pay local costs for groceries and everything else? I don't know. These programs aren't studied at that level. But we know that the higher you go above that, the more likely it's going to be unaffordable.
Yeah.
So how much we can bring that down to will depend on how much we can raise and how long we feel like it's going to be important to have a program like this in place. Had the Heights been built 5 years ago, because of increasing wages, increasing construction costs, it would have been built for less money. People that would have rented then would be making more than they did when they moved in. So at some point, this just if there are increased costs of building and rent and income, this problem kind of solves itself. But in the early years, it doesn't. So we would want to support at least the first 2 years and longer if we can, but that's going to be on us to see how much money we can raise. So whether we try to support down to 30% or 35% or 37%, you can see the cost of that here. The numbers in each line item, let's look at the 30% number. The 421 is the amount by which that person's rent exceeds 30% of their income. So if we add all those up for the first 16, it comes to $3,200 a month, or $38,000 a year. And then there are 22 other units that weren't rented at the time these numbers were done. So we're just guessing here that the profile of those renters will be the same as or similar to the profile of the first. So we would need $90,000 a year, and we don't think we'll probably be able to raise that kind of money. But it's probably quite more realistic for us to try to provide support down to 35% or something close to that. That would be our goal. So we're not asking for money, we're asking for the HRA to play a key necessary role in the movement of donated money to these renters to make it more affordable.
And Sean of the Boreal Waters said that if you did approve this, that immediately he would get into an agreement would be created so that the distribution to HRA, that all those steps would be figured out with Jeff. Yeah. But-
This is conceptual at this time. There's a lot of
Yes, it is.
details that need to be worked out, obviously, but finding the key players is the first piece. So questions?
Questions from the board?
Well, I would say we've already thought of this too, obviously. It's a very obvious problem. And, yeah, totally supportive of your effort. I think it's a great effort.
Well, didn't you help make some of it down to 60%? I think the 2 bedrooms, they were at 80%,
Yeah, the HRA
right,
has
Gary? And-
has skin in the game, right, Gary?
Yeah,
for the-
y'all did that
for the
for
rent
us. and-
subsidies, right?
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, and I think we also, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioners, but I think we allowed some flexibility in the Gunflint View project where people were,
Right.
same thing, where they were coming in $10 above the cutoff, and we allowed them to, because that's our rule, not really that's not a law, it's just our rule for the subsidy. And maybe we need to think about that rule a little bit, maybe make it mathematically a little more complex so it would, so it wouldn't have these big jumps, you know? It's just sort of an odd way to construct it if you think about it. But even then, people won't be at 30%.
But that would that would diminish the amount we'd have to raise and extend the time period during which
Yeah,
we could
yeah.
provide
Might be
the
more
subsidy, so it would be
logical.
very helpful.
So that's something we could think about. I think that's a question, and can we structure this in a way that works better for people? And then, obviously, we're going to need to do this with almost every project we do, I think, that involves rentals. So as a board, we need to think about that. It's great to do it for the Heights. We're, of course, 100% supportive of the Heights, but we have to think about, maybe if we're going to do it, maybe we should set it up so we can do it over and over again and cover lots of people.
Unfortunately, this is a problem that isn't going to get better as
Unlikely.
costs go up, unless incomes also go up, and that, remains to be seen. But I think the idea of giving some thought to how we might structure some of our policies or procedures
And
to
we're-
accommodate this is really a good one.
We're already grappling with this. We're looking into a local housing trust fund, but that, it turns out, is likely operates more like an endowment. And then we already have this wonderful, generous contribution from Cascade Vacation Rental, which we're hoping to go out and get more business entities to support that. We're kind of waiting on the legal opinion on the local trust fund to see what we can actually do. Apparently, we're the first one to set one up, first HRA, so it's we're kind of breaking ground here legally, and then unfortunately our county attorney's super busy right now, so there's been a bit of a delay there. But I think we also, as a board, need to think about the money we have that's already donated and how that's designated and how we account for it. And then the final question I would have is just, and maybe the commissioners know this, but because we're a county agency, county authority, there'd have to be some accountability through to the county on great to have the rental agency doing the vetting, but that would have to follow through to the county to be able to audit that, especially in this political climate. People are concerned about fraud. We want to make sure to set up a system that makes fraud impossible.
What I think is
But I think
so-
that can be solved.
Yeah, what I think just is so wonderful is that this kind of thinking makes it very individual. So now it's, it's these individual families, it's these single moms, it's our people. And so I really, we know how much they make or what their need is, and so we can help them in a personal way, which I think makes it very dynamic and life-changing for them, that we care about individuals and making things better for them. And that kind of atmosphere can then create, give them that opportunity to become better and to get more. When you feel really good about yourself and you have confidence and you're secure, a lot of great things can happen in your life.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but didn't we have an inquiry from somebody who wanted to make a fairly serious donation just for this, for rent subsidies, out of their IRA or their retirement account? I think it was amended.
Yeah. So
So we've already
first of all,
had
I
people.
just want to say I really appreciate the conversation today. It's a very good conversation to have. Commissioner Hanson, you've made some very good points, and I'm really glad you made them. Those are things we have to be cognizant of, especially in our current political climate. That we don't want to do anything that's going to be counter to what's in the best interest of the public, especially with fraud and that sort of thing. And so it's nice that we'll have auditing throughout this process, and we'll be able to understand more where the money's going. That said, from our standpoint, I think that there are some folks in the community that do want to make some sizable contributions, whether it be through their retirement account or whatever the case may be. And you're right, the local housing trust fund set up more for an endowment, so to speak, in that the interest bearing off of the money that's given to us can be used for the good purposes that we've set out for, and we have identified, at least in draft form, in our documents to create the local housing trust fund. And you're right, absolutely, as well. We're the first HRA in the state since the state legislature passed the statute changes in 2025 that allows us the authority to create our own local housing trust fund through statutes. And so we're the first one plowing ground on this, and we want to make sure we get it right. So and we do want to make sure that we do have the support of our county commissioners and our county attorney in this process. Mm-hmm. All of that said, the biggest thing, when we had this conversation with Boreal Waters a week or so ago, we weren't looking for any formal action from the board today. Really what we're looking for is some sort of a thumbs up or thumbs down from all of you today to say thumbs up, keep up the good work and keep moving forward on this, or thumbs down, we don't want Jeff to do any of this stuff going forward. And I'm gathering from the conversation today, at least, that it's not a no, and there possibly are some thumbs sticking up in the air. And so I can't see that from St. Paul, where I'm at today, but I can kind of get that from the conversation today. And you're right. I think in the future we need to look at this for more of our rental conversations down the road as well. And so I hope that answers your question, and I hope that gives you a little bit more context for today's conversation.
And just to be clear, so the local housing trust fund, which would act as let's just call it an endowment for the sake of argument here. I'm a huge fan of endowments. I think they're fantastic, and we definitely should have one. But the way endowments work, in my experience, and I've had a lot of experience with endowments, is that those are donations you get from people like at the time of their estate settling, large donations where they want to do good for 100 years. And that's how you raise money for it, rather than raising 5,000 here, 5,000 there. At the same time, as an organization, we really need working subsidy capital. That's basically what we do, is subsidize projects to make them affordable for people. So we need to be able to have capital and be able to, I guess, there's a kind of a gray area about how we accept donations, and I'm not sure we've ever addressed that.
No, the key, we can accept donations, we cannot ask for donations.
Yeah, we can't solicit.
We need to make that very clear, so it's important that you're here today with this proposal, because we can react to that proposal and we can go from here, but we can't be out soliciting contributions. Even the work that Cascade Vacation Rental has done, it's a great example of what can be done, but we can't be the ones going out to other businesses. We can go with someone who's putting the ask out and telling them, well, here's what we do with this, but we can't be soliciting ourselves. So that's why it is important that you're here today, and we appreciate that.
But I just want to make clear from the HRA's point of view that the trust fund, the endowment, and then sort of a working subsidy fund would be two different things.
Yes.
And we probably need to get legal opinion on both of those, so we're really clear on how that works.
And Sean did express that they would do this with no fee.
Oh, that's nice.
Gee,
That's their way of.
Commissioner Gamble.
Yeah, thank you for letting me speak to this. The county certainly does pass through for organizations, and our fiscal responsibility, legal responsibility in that regard is simply that the organization is something that we feel is consistent with the values of the community, and so we would serve in that capacity. It is a decision that comes before us usually from our county auditor treasurer in the request, and then the board would simply ratify that. So it is something that gets done. Like anything that gets done, it should be done based upon a set of criteria. And I would agree with the comment that if we do this, there can be individual things that come before the board that are asks. But whatever you do in the instance that is one time, you need to look at it as though it might be multiple times. And I agree with the comment that the endowment there should be a definition as to the application of endowment funds, and also if there's an establishment of subsidy funds that people can contribute to, that both of those are well informed and documented so that the consistent application of that will be evident moving forward. I would say at this point, with the information that's brought forward, that looking at it from a legal standpoint, looking at the opportunities that exist, and as has been experienced going to legislature and asking that we could establish this funding, that we can create new revenue streams or new opportunities through resourcefulness, but it has to go through the proper channels. My recommendation would be that the ask would be something that would be looked at in more detail, so that the legal opinion, that the broader picture that includes both endowment and a subsidy fund would be more clearly defined based upon the context of this ask and what we know to this date relative to what we've created in housing locally.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Ryan.
I broadly think it's a very good idea and creative. One question I'd like to better understand is what's involved in the due diligence and responsibilities of being a fiscal agent. Who does the auditing to ensure that people's incomes haven't changed, or that does that become part of Jeff's work? And if so, then we just need to think about, if this program expands, does that become an onerous part of his job when, instead of going out and developing new housing. So,
Well, this being a new thing, we're kind of making it up as we go. But our sense of it is that we need to get verification of income every year to determine the qualification for the 60 and 80% AMI rental discounts. So we would use that same information to determine what additional subsidy we would provide. We don't know, so we would instruct our rental management company to provide the county with a summary of that each month, and then the HRA's role would be to sign off on that and pass it on to Boreal Waters. Beyond that, exactly, whether that's adequate from the county's perspective, I don't know. That would be, we'd need to understand more what your audit requirements are, I think,
Yeah,
to
but-
do
and I
that.
think when Boreal Waters and HRA, when they do make that agreement, that would be in there, right?
Of course, yeah. I mean, once we get this conceptually all sorted out and figured out who the players are, then we have to start drafting a program and, whatever kind of documents would be necessary to define everyone's role. We just want to make sure we have all the right players in the game first, and then that's the next step.
Well, it seems like your objective is pretty simple, and that's to help affordability of people who are somewhere in between guidelines, and that's clear enough. And then the question is how much money can be put to that, and that's up to you to raise money. But I think if our role is a pass-through, we'll figure out how that should work. Commissioner Gamble's right. There's a difference between probably this proposal and what we have envisioned for the housing trust fund, but who knows down the line. But I think we ought to get started down that lane.
Just
Anybody disagree with that at this point? Oh, we got two county commissioners who have something to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things I'm thinking about before anything gets written down is to try to coordinate a meeting with our county attorney and with Auditor Treasurer Powers, so that you can discuss everything and then begin your work writing up documents.
And if that meeting could include the issue of the housing trust fund review by the county attorney,
That would be nice.
that would be really helpful. Because that's really holding us up, and we've got to get it resolved.
Absolutely.
But Commissioner Gamble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If funding is supplied by an agency, federal agency, let's say if HUD or Minnesota Housing, that whatever parameters they establish, there would have to be compliance with that. In the situation where you're dealing with HUD and you're dealing with subsidy, that the annual recertification is an opportunity to look at the revenue and relationship to the established rent. So based upon the criteria that is used in that evaluation, you take your income and qualifying expenses, and whatever that is, then you set that rate. HUD sets the rate at which rent can be charged under subsidy, and then income also plays into that calculation. So what happens, and the reason I'm saying this is that if the financing of the project is connected to an organization that has parameters in which you need to operate, you would need to comply with those. If it's a matter of doing that without that responsibility, then I would suggest you would follow the similar model, which is an annual, and set up their criteria. Anytime you do something independent, as Commissioner Sullivan has identified in their discussions, that the legal aspects need to be identified. So part of that would be, are there any other HRAs can be within the state, but could be without the state, but it's best if within the state, that have done similar things that are helping establish a fund. If we can learn from their experience, we don't have to start from scratch. But I would say that that the criteria that is applied, equally applied so that it's just and it's credible, is something that would have to be well documented before it's administered. So that you'd have that consistency that is audible and proves the integrity of the process.
Right, that makes sense.
So on that topic, I did, Commissioner Campbell, I did reach out to the Minnesota Association of HROs across the state of Minnesota, and I have not heard back yet, but I'm trying to figure that out so I don't reinvent the wheel in this process. And what I would remind the board is that we do go through a quasi certification process. We just finished it with the Gunflint View for their subsidy. They had to qualify for that subsidy that we agreed to pay for the 60% and 80% AMI rates. They had to provide us with documentation, and since we have onboarded with Jason Hale and the North Shore Development Company, in his capacity, he has reviewed the documents they provided us and gave us a thumbs up, and we sent them a check. And so we could do something like that again through that process. We could do a similar process, I'm sure.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, it's important to note, when we got started, we were concerned about existing developments that are here that are subsidized for families and elderly, mostly by HUD. And but we did not see our role as getting involved in the documentation, processing all that paper, and being the experts. And so that's what the Duluth HRA does for us. And so it's a little easier if it's a project that we've personally, at least corporately financed and or helped finance and understand the limitations, and we're able to deal with that as we are with the Heights, or the Gunflint View. But yeah, we want to stay a little clear of having to do a lot of documentation other than reviewing and approving, I guess is how I would see it. But
Yeah, we would try to avoid creating any more bureaucratic workload than we need to by using existing parameters to the extent they're available to us.
well, the management company should be pretty familiar with that whole process, and that if they've had experience at all in any rental housing almost, it's probably going to be they'll be okay.
We have discussed the fact that, assuming we get this built out and functioning, there's likely to be interest from other building owners, developers, to set something similar up. We believe that our target market to seek donations is primarily the general and limited partnership pool of this project, and that those people are more likely to donate if they're donating to a project they already have familiarity with and an interest in. So we see this as a pattern that could certainly be repeated by other developers, but this project would be specific to the Heights. It would be really useful. Jeff mentioned to us that the Gunflint Hills has got an agreement to soften those 60 and 80% numbers a little bit. It'd be really interesting to know how much flexibility has been given, because that's something, if we could utilize that, then there's a consistency between how the HRA and the county are dealing with those two projects, and we don't have to start over. Could that information be available to us, or is that confidential?
I just don't remember.
What's that?
I don't remember, but it's in the minutes. Do you remember, Jeff, what we told them?
I'm sorry, I barely heard Dennis talk, and I didn't understand what he was asking.
He's just talking about the accommodation we made to the Gunflint View project on the 60 and 80% hard numbers, and I can't remember exactly how that was rolled out. They just asked for some latitude, and we agreed. So yeah, maybe it would be a question for them, how it's working out for them, which I'm sure they'd be willing to share.
So
Anecdotally, all I can tell you is that I haven't heard anything in my capacity as executive director where they had complaints or any concerns about whatever we agreed to. I'd have to go back. I don't have it right in front of me here in St. Paul today, but I can go back and look at that at a different time to see what we did. I just know whatever we agreed to or whatever we were doing at Dunford View, from my perspective, is working to the point where I haven't heard any negative feedback.
While we're at it, we should just think about that issue in the abstract too, and, instead of solving it for each project, let's solve it once and for all.
Yeah, you can see here how these hard numbers really do impact anyone in between.
Now, I suspect that this is a new idea that there aren't maybe a lot of HRAs that are going to, like what we're proposing. So, again, this is another opportunity where maybe Cook County could take the leadership role and be unique and make this work. But I want to go back to Commissioner Sullivan's point. I think it's really critical that we do have a meeting down the road in the near future that involves our county auditor, treasurer, and our county attorney to make sure that we're dotting all of our I's and crossing all of our T's to make sure that we're doing this correctly. And I would argue adding probably our legal counsel to that mix as well. But I think it's doable. I really do.
Well, look, I'd like to move on a bit at this stage, so I think we've heard the proposal and appreciate it, and we'd hope you'd continue to develop it and stay in touch with us through Jeff.
Okay.
And as that all goes forward, and meanwhile, on our side, we'll start thinking of it a little more cosmically than we have in the past, and the difference between the Housing Trust Fund as an endowment versus individual possible, work with each project. So, but try and be consistent and be visible and transparent as we do it. That's kind of our key. So unless there, Commissioner Sullivan.
Just one final thought is if we're looking at, your partners contributing further, I understand that there is a passion and an interest. But I would also say, given the demographics of Cook County and the number of people that we have, 74, 75 and up, consider maybe a pitch to seniors about their
Absolutely.
required minimum distribution.
Yeah, I'm at the homestead, so, yeah.
And
So
maybe we could get people to donate that piece to you
Yes,
in the future.
that's wonderful.
You're essentially
you.
getting 30% from the federal government when you do that, so it's kind of free money it's laying out there.
Yeah.
So, just a thought.
Everybody with an IRA that has anybody that has an IRA that's over 65, I think now?
It's
Can-
73, I think.
No, for
70.
the mandatory, but you can donate from your
I see.
IRA tax-free.
Right.
So
Okay.
make all your donations from your IRA, for God's sake.
So,
Thank you all for your
I
time today,
know.
and thanks for the
Thank
positive feedback. We'll work with Jeff to get this meeting together with the county auditor and county attorney. Is that our marching orders?
and our legal
And-
counsel as well.
And
And
would
we-
that, so that would be before we then involve Sean with the agreement?
I
That
think
would be-
Sean could be part of that meeting.
Wonderful, good, okay.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Oh, that's lovely, thank you.
Okay, you've
Thank
given
you,
us a
Doug.
lot of time, and we know you have other things on your agenda. Thank you so much, we
Before
really
you
appreciate
leave,
it.
how was move-in weekend?
This coming,
How was moving weekend, Gary? You wanna-
Oh,
this coming weekend.
Position is just the most fun weekend I've had in months.
oh my
Not the
God.
most relaxing.
Not the most relaxing.
Well, I drive by it coming into town from Lutzen, and I noticed that one of the terraces there, outside one of the units, there are 2 lawn chairs out there now. So somebody's doing something, and
Out on the frozen snow.
We're so excited,
I
yeah.
saw you
Thank
all
you
set
again.
up.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. All right, let's go back. We've got some unfinished business here, which is Resolution 2610, authorizing the executive director to enter into a 50-year lease with Tofty Township for the use and access to the billboard in the Birch Grove parcel owned by our HRA. I think we're all familiar with the issue. Jeff, do you want to have a further comment at this point?
Yeah, I did send out a red line version of the agreement that the Tofty Township supervisors took a look at last Thursday at their township board meeting. I've had our legal expert, our legal counsel, Chris Freiberg, take a look at it. Chris Berta over at Freiberg. He looked at it. He saw nothing that was concerning or any substance really changes. I will draw your attention on the first page. We did include all property south of driveway to include driveway as it relates to access, so that way they could get access to the billboard itself, so they could not only maintain it, but, put up the billboard itself, and if the wind comes and tears it off, or whatever the case is, it fades, they can go back onto the property, access it, put up the new sign and that sort of thing. Other than that, basically what this is a 50-year lease between us and Tofty Township to operate the billboard for $1, which is what's allowed by state law as a minimum. And then they have access to it, and we can make the place look a little nicer than it is right now. And that's basically all the changes that were made.
Thanks, Jeff. Any comments or thoughts?
I just want to disclose that I'm going to recuse myself from this vote. My daughter let slip that she's in the running to be a tenant on that billboard again, so although I have no financial connection to it or anything else, I'll recuse myself.
Sounds like a good idea, thanks. Is there a motion to approve
I'll move to approve.
2612?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Nay.
Abstain.
One other,
One,
it's a related note on a different billboard. Jeff, I just noticed going up the Gunflint Trail that there's I wonder if we could just reach out to the Gunflint View folks and just say that they should either remove or update the sign that says that it's opening summer of 2025.
We did have, at my request, Jeff got him to take down the 12 units remaining. Because twice I overheard conversations in the cafe where people saying, why are we building more housing? They've got 12 units open there that have been open for a year. And I was like, oh my God.
It just
got rid of that.
Just not a good look for.
They are
for
full,
the
by the
HRA.
way, or they're essentially full now. They're just having
Yeah, they're
normal
full,
turnover.
and then they are there's some new releasing and that sort of thing going on. That sort of thing. What I would say is that I think it's still stuck in the snowbank, and Megan does have plans to remove that. But
All right.
Are they, do you
Warmer
know, Jeff,
weather.
are they planning to have a sign there, or is that just a temporary, was that just a,
that was more of a temporary thing.
okay,
Yep.
Okay.
that's probably appropriate.
next on the agenda is Resolution 2612. This is a new business, and it approves the executive director to enter into an agreement with Nordic Star Drive Housing to expand the infrastructure grant with One Roof Community Housing. We've been through this issue and discussion, but Jeff, anything further to add?
Yeah, I will add that it's on page 20 of the packet, and it is it's for $250,000. That was the direction that you had given me back, I believe, at the January meeting. It took some time to get the legal drafting and to make sure we got all the things right. There was a couple of things that we tweaked here and there, and that's all part of the resolution itself now. So, and then in the subsequent pages, 21 through, gosh, I think it's 24. You'll also see in your packet, there's Exhibit A, which is on page 25. That's the letter that we received at the beginning of the year from One Roof Community Housing, and that was the impetus for where we started with this. I will say that conversations have been about, this $250,000 that we received as a deferred loan at the time of closing on the Birchwood Apartments. That $250,000 we really didn't earmark too much. We had some conversations, and the subsidy that we have allocated for the heights possibly coming out of the $250,000. However, we do maintain a sizable amount of money when I say sizable, I don't mean we have a large amount of money, but we have room to continue to subsidize the Heights for 2 years through the SAHA funds that we received from the state of Minnesota and the Department of Revenue. And so I don't have any concerns with that. If it comes out of the pot that they give us, or if it comes out of the 250, I'd suggest that we use the 250 to leverage up to 10 new homes in Grand Marais as part of the Nordic Star Phase 2 that Wonders Community Housing is really working on. And this will help leverage some additional dollars for some other organization to also support the building of more homes in Grand Marais.
Any further thoughts on Resolution 2612? Is there a motion to approve it?
I'll move adoption of Resolution 2612.
Been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. We're on to your report there, Jeff, I think, yes.
Yep, good. So I'll make it brief, but there are some points that I really wanted to point out today, not only just so you are aware, but also I want to make the public aware of what's going on in some of the different projects that we're working on. First, I'll start with Cedar Grove Business Park. Back in 2024, and it came up during the auditing process this year, back in, or last year rather, for 2024 fiscal year, that we as the HRA approved an agreement with the EDA to acquire 2 lots at the Business Grove Business Park for housing, but we didn't quite get that to closing. And so I've been working with Peter Klissel, the president of the EDA, and I have been working on getting that through the title team and getting a closing. Right now, we tentatively have a scheduled closing for 3 o'clock on the 24th of March, which is just next week. And hopefully we'll be in possession of those 2 lots by the end of the week. And then also I'm working with Hamilton Habitat to close on that Creechville property that we have obtained from the county, and we'll get that off to the title team as well. And so that's my report for number 1. Number 2, the second home funding for workforce housing. I'm here at the legislature, and I had a chance to talk with Grant Hochschild's legislative assistant. We're still working on what we can and can't do and trying to figure out a way to make a tax policy that's fair for everyone in the state, because of course it can't just be fair for one county. Inevitably it has to be fair for everybody across the board. So we're working on ways to process that, because in the northeastern part of Minnesota, and we're not unique in Cook County this way, but we are unique as a region, there's just a lot of second homes and a lot of seasonal cabins. And if it's Itasca County or Aiken County or Koochiching County, we're all kind of in the same boat here. And so from our standpoint, it's a matter of having a conversation about fairness and how we can maybe capture some of these dollars to help work towards workforce housing. We have a unique geographic challenge because of all the public land in Cook County. And so, what's been built was the easiest stuff to be built, and now what's left is more costly, more difficult terrain, and so it's going to cost a little bit more. So whatever we can do to help kind of figure out that math problem and solve it to where it's still going to be affordable, that's something that I've heard from all of you is really important. And so I'm going to continue to work with Grant's research folks and Senator Hochschild's research folks, and I hope that we have something that we can at least get to introductions this year for possible conversation, and then of course for next year as well. On the Duval project update, that's number 3. That's the area that the city owns that used to be the Tabota Motel. It's right across the street from the Aspen Inn as you come into town, right kind of close proximity to WTIP, community radio. I just received a word from Alex Duval today that they have all of the capital sources lined up, and they are going to evaluate the progress of optimizing their start. In the past, I've had some feedback from the city that owns the property, and having a conversation last night with Mayor Benson. She's down here as well for the Cook County portion of the St. Louis County days. And I'll be honest with you, they have expressed some sort of frustrations that in the past the developer really hasn't updated them on the progress of this development. But I do have an update. I was able to get that to her. And, I think the general public really wants to know what's going on in this parcel. And so at least that's what I can inform everybody about at once, is that they do have all the capital sources lined up. So I'm glad to hear that. Next, I just wanted, again, for awareness sake, to point out WTIP did a great job of covering Birchwood Apartments, and the acquisition of them from a One Roof Community Housing was a great story about the next phase of redevelopment of that property, and the remodeling of that property, I should say. And so that gives good information to people in the community, and I really appreciate that. And with that, I just also, and I know it's not on the list, but I'm down here in St. Paul today. I was down here yesterday in St. Paul as well. Again, St. Louis County has their days at the Capitol. Cook County and Lake County are also here as well. There were 16 of us from Cook County, and I was one of them. And I was really happy to have some time with both Representative Scraba and Senator Hochschild last night. And I had a real good opportunity to visit with some folks in housing here at the legislature, at least in the House and Senate. And I look forward to having some more conversations tonight. They have a reception for all legislators, and I'm really looking forward to visiting with some of my former colleagues about housing in particular, but also some of the real investments that we're looking for in the Capital Investment Committee this year. Some money, $5 million for wastewater treatment in Grand Marais, for instance. The Gitchigami Trail is looking for some funding to extend the trail. And then also the last 10 miles of the Gunflint Trail need to be resurfaced, and so that's going to take some federal and state resources as well. And so all of those things are kind of asks that the group of 16 is here in St. Paul to talk about, and I'm really excited to have those conversations today and yesterday and tonight as well.
Well, thanks for that update, Jeff. It's interesting, and keep plugging. Commissioner Hanson.
Jeff, can I ask a question on the Hamilton Habitat property that's what you referred to as the Creechville property? That's the one on 4th Avenue West, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Has there been any discussion with the city on that about 4th Avenue West, that stretch of it between 5th Street and the Gunflint Trail is unpaved or mostly unpaved? I guess it was paved and then it wasn't paved, but most of it's not paved now. Are we going to run into the same problem there we ran into at the business park, where the city's going to require that to be upgraded at a cost that makes the project unfeasible?
I've had conversations with Anna Hamilton about this sort of conversation itself. There will be some more conversations that take place between the city and, of course, the Hamilton Habitat developers. Right now, I haven't heard anything specific about whether or not this needs to be a paved road or not. Right in front of me right now, I was handed a concept sketch by Anna and North Shore Land Surveying. At least they're looking at providing up to 8 lots on that property for housing, and that's a size that maybe is a little bit larger of a footprint per lot, and so there could be potential to build more than 8, but also there's some question about some of the wetlands in the area and how much of that wetland area is developable. So stay tuned on that conversation. There will be some public hearings because for this particular issue, Anna is well aware of the fact and talked with Mike Roth that there will be some public hearings about this specific development as it makes its way through. I don't have an answer for you on the road itself, but if I had to suggest it, it's going to be part of the conversations that the public hearings are going to be a part of.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Well, under 5, financials,
The financials were included in the board pack, nothing too, mostly pretty straightforward. Jeff, I did have one question. The only significant transaction over since our last meeting was the $40,000 payment to Gunflint View. Can you just remind me what that was for? That was on March 5th.
Yes, that was the SAHA funding being transferred, SAHA funding from the state government, from the Department of Revenue, to Gunflint View as part of our agreement for those subsidized rents at 60 and 80%. They had to provide the documentation that that money was subsidized, who's getting that rent and that sort of thing. And not by name, but how it worked out is in terms of the need and the necessity. And so we've got all that documentation that we can go back to for our auditing purposes. And since, again, we were able to contract last month with Jason over at the North Shore Development Company, he was able to take a look at all that stuff on my behalf and was able to review it and give it a good thumbs up. So that's what that money's for.
Thank you.
Jeff, I think we also made a commitment to the Heights for SAHA money if it's available?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. That
Yes.
didn't come up in
and
the
we do have a
discussion here.
sizable amount left. I want to say it's over $100,000 and probably closer to $200,000 that we have. And so we might be having some conversations in the near future about maybe doing something in terms of a program down the road for, there's a lot of things we could do with that money, whether it be for first-time home buyers or some additional rent assistance or whatever the case may be. But definitely as we look to 2027 with with that Birch Grove Community School neighborhood projects that we're working on in development, there might be some additional resources that can be made available as well.
Okay. Anything else there, Jeff, from you? Otherwise, we'll continue on. And for the Personnel Committee,
Yep, go ahead.
I'll give a brief report. We had our annual review with Jeff after, thanks to all the commissioners. Everybody completed their reviews and got them in a timely fashion. And generally with Jeff, as we put it, overall it was a good year. He's got an overall rating of 4 on a scale of 1 to 5. Importantly, I guess he had no 2s from anybody, but his 3s area, which is literally meeting expectations in a first year where there's a lot of other stuff going on, was overseeing programs, overseeing operations and budget, kind of the administrative side, and he was above expectations in working with the board, with strategic planning, and with communicating with the public. And so those were the real pluses with Jeff. And the year was complicated by additional work needed to document audit needs, and we hope that we can save some funds this year and expect to on our audit, because now Jeff's familiar with what was spent because he did it. And we did ask him to pay attention to timely communications with partners, particularly with developers, but including with the city and county staff, and that's an important part of the job. And his own self-review was, he set some very aggressive goals for 2026, and so the challenge is for Jeff to meet those, and we'd certainly appreciate his willingness to get out some ideas. And the one other thing Commissioner O'Brien mentioned was syncing the projects that he's listed in 2026 to the strategic plan objectives. We set 5 specific strategic plan objectives, and so when we're reporting on individual projects, we'd like to have them put those into the buckets that correspond with our strategic plan. Basically, we recommend, the Personnel Committee recommends a salary raise of 5%, from $90,000 to $94,500, and a bonus of $2,500 net after taxes. The salary is totally in keeping with our budget. The bonus would be coming from contingencies, and we have sufficient funds to do that. So that's the summary of what we did with Jeff. We really appreciate the fact Jeff came to us, and the job he's done stepping into a new situation for him and for us was really excellent, well done. And so I think I'd like a motion from someone to approve the recommendations of the Personnel Committee here for Jeff's compensation. Any questions? First of all, I shouldn't just ask for a resolution. Any thoughts or comments about it?
I certainly think it's fair. I move.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Oops, wait.
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
Commissioner
Chair, I
Gamble.
appreciate it. I just want to commend the board and the Personnel Committee. This is something as a county that the importance of this in how we come alongside those that we entrust with leadership, and you've done a very good job in that regard. And that discipline is very important. It's important both for the community and accountability, as well as coming alongside those that we put in those leadership positions to know where they're at so they know expectations. So I commend you on it.
Well, it's our goal to be, objective and also transparent.
Yeah.
And, these things, while the Personnel Committee, some of the actions beforehand were not necessarily in the public, nor was our review with Jeff, but the fact is that the salary and bonus requirements are public, need to be public information.
Just the discipline of the process, so
Yeah.
publicly letting know that is something that's being done. Yeah.
Well, and again, thanks to all the commissioners, including the county commissioners, for putting up with the 10-point form and getting it all in, so thanks. Hearing any further discussion? I don't, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone care to move for adjournment?
I'll move.
Okay. Been moved.
Second.
And seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye, and we'll go on. Thank you. Thanks for everybody here.
Thank you.
And Maggie, thank you. As I say, you're an upgrade in our minutes, which is great to see.
Thanks, Jeff.
That's